Welcome back. And I actually had posted something on LinkedIn earlier today regarding our guest and the work that they do. And my comment was simply, I really wish I would have known about this in my college and university days. So, Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. The work that you're doing is amazing. So I want to thank you for inviting me, and let's make this a good episode for everyone listening.
I appreciate that. And yeah, the work that you're doing is critically important for all students, whether they're college or executives. So, why don't you share a little bit about you and then we'll jump into the conversation?
Yeah, sounds good. Because I'll just introduce myself. My name is Tom Vorselen, founder of a company that's called the Study Coach. And now you might be thinking and listening, okay, I don't study anymore, but like, hear me out for the next 30 seconds if this is, something for you. Because most likely you are the same as me and Michael. Maybe you're working right now and you figured out that you actually never learned how to learn. Right. So we spend around 13,000 hours at school between the age of 5 and 22, and 0 hours are dedicated on learning how to learn. Hence, you might now be in a situation that you're learning for an exam or a certificate or a promotion, and you're getting stuck. So basically, who we help is indeed students, but also a lot of working professionals, entrepreneurs who want to kind of like level up their skills and get certificates with science-based learning method, time management skills, and knowing how to deal with procrastination. And we do that worldwide. So we have a global following of 500,000 plus. And we work with people from America all the way to Australia, helping them with these challenges just mentioned.
It's ironic in a way that in a place where they teach you to learn things, they don't teach you how to learn. It's like
Uh,
it's almost the equivalent of saying, okay, you are going to drive cars or vehicles for a living, but we're not going to teach you actually how to drive.
yeah,
And everyone would say that's absolutely idiotic. Why would anybody even think about doing that? But you nailed it. That's our education system in a nutshell. And you think about it, you go through, you get your degree, you get into your career, and as you said, you want to get a promotion, you want to learn how to be an upper manager, maybe you have aspirations to be in the C-suite. What do I need to do? Well, you study and you learn how to do it, but if you didn't know how to do it, then you're quite frankly spinning your wheels and not retaining things. And there's a lot of similarities, and I'll make sure to share a link to the video that I watched this morning in the show notes as well, because I think it's about 14 minutes, but it's full of ideas of what's transpired and why we struggle learning and why those cram sessions that we did in college and university didn't help us at all because we basically went into the exam and it was as if the guys from Men in Black came up to us and went and pretty much forget everything. It's like, who am I? What class is this? You just spent the last 15 weeks working in the curriculum on this class, and you go in there and you remember nothing.
nothing.
Someone cold off the street will probably score better than you that didn't attend the class at all just because you taxed your brain. You asked your brain to do something that it's not naturally wired or quite frankly capable to do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And like because of this reason, luckily, Michael, we see that, like these days kids, they get a bit more education about learning how to learn. So it is becoming more important in the curriculums. However, there's this huge, gap of indeed people who are in their mid 20s all the way up to their 60s, 70s who have missed this information. So what happens is indeed, let's say indeed you want to get into the C-suite kind of like role and you want to do an MBA, all right? And you go into the MBA thinking, okay, yeah, I'll do that study next to my full-time job. So you already have little time. Maybe you have some little kids running around. So your life is already hectic, and you put this other thing on top of your plate, and you're going into it with methods that are absolutely trash. And the methods that are absolutely trash are rereading stuff, highlighting stuff. Making a summary is also not necessarily a good learning method. Rewatching the lecture because you maybe missed some critical points earlier in the week. And this is all methods that people use because they are familiar and everybody kind of like uses them. But in terms of knowledge retention, they get you like to 20, maybe max 30%. And this is then where people end up in their masters or their MBAs next to their full-time job, failing classes, and they start to self-doubt and think, this is not for me. Like, I fail, I don't know how to take exams. And they either give up or they push through, and they end up eventually burning themselves out because they take work and study really serious. They drop the whole family thing and they end up in this negative cycle. So yeah, like they're usually using these bad methods. And if anyone listens to this and they think, oh yeah, I am a rereader, I am a highlighter, I am a summarizer, it's not your fault. It's indeed like because you've never learned how to do it. But after listening, yeah, like please stop using that and start to apply some more positive learning strategies that will actually yield you the results of all the time and effort you put in.
I remember when I was in university, I was in class and there was a student next to me, and I looked over at her book that, and um, there was so many highlighted lines. I looked at her and, I knew her a little bit, and I said, you know what? I can save you a whole lot of time on that. And she said, what? I said, instead of highlighting, just go to the hardware store, buy a gallon of yellow paint, dip the book in the paint, pull it out because it's going to look exactly
The
the
same.
same. I said, there's not, I have never, it doesn't matter. There isn't any documentation that we've ever created other than maybe a recipe book that you need to highlight that much. You're going overboard because I, a lot of it is fear of missing out. A lot of it is I'm afraid I'm going to forget this, so I'll highlight it. So by highlighting it, I will remember it. No, no, because you say, okay, that page you highlighted, do you remember anything from it? No, it's like it doesn't work. And I'm not against highlighting. I'm not, but it's whatever mechanism you use, and hopefully, after today's show, people will listen and follow you and figure out how to better learn. Because I think it'll get you away from those highlighters and to you know jot down the important things that are that you need to retain, and there's mechanisms and there's methods that you use to help people actually learn and retain and get it from this right now type of memory to you're going to remember it in 3 months when you're sitting and writing your exam. So why don't you dive
Exactly.
in a little bit on that?
Yeah, and I can give a quick tip already for people who are the highlighters and the rereaders and the summarizers and who do feel frustrated by not making progress. One thing that I want you to take away if you're listening is convert every material that you're studying into questions, because there's nothing as tempting for the brain as a question. Once you start to ask your brain a question, it wants to come up and retrieve the answer. So instead of indeed highlighting that important bold word, grab a separate piece of paper and create a question. What is the definition of insert the bold word? And you're going to scan only for these important things: bold words, italic words, images, steps, bullet points. And instead of highlighting all of that stuff and thinking, oh, by highlighting I remember it, you don't. See if you can think as if you are a professor. How would the professor test me on this concept? So maybe with an image, you can hold your hand on one part of the image and say which I don't know which muscle is located here, such that you start to memorize. And then if you want to go deeper, you also ask yourself, what is the function of this muscle? Like which part of the body does it move? And once you start thinking in that way, you start to create questions about the material, which is again, tempting for your brain, as well as the research. Like research is most research topic is that question-based learning improves retention by 150%. Don't know how they come up with the 150%, but if you search up question-based learning or active recall, you'll find a ton of research backing this up. because by actively retrieving information, we strengthen the knowledge networks. And that's indeed how people can retain information over the long term, if also revised strategically, because that is a whole different story. But this is the first advice I want to give people. Once you start doing this, you probably feel way more satisfied with your study session because you actually retain information. And B, you're also going to identify the things that you find difficult, aka your knowledge gaps, is how we like to call it. And that gives you room and time to indeed fill these knowledge gaps such that you don't end up in a situation where, yeah, you just reread and highlight, don't remember anything. Now you're actively testing yourself on the knowledge every couple of days, and then you are, yeah, way better prepared. Like students in our program score 90 to like 100% on exams by just using this simple shift already.
Yeah, it's important to, understand that. It's like in learning, and it makes so much sense, at least to me, and hopefully listeners it does too. It's like, oh yeah, that just makes a lot of sense. Why haven't we been doing that? And a lot of times too, and talk to my spouse about this when she was in college and university. She learned, and she's neurodivergent, so she's got some of those types of additional skills, as we like to call it in the house. But for her, her learning style was, she knew that in class, if the professor was talking about certain subjects, they didn't have to say this is going to be on the exam. She just kind of knew. It's like, okay, he or she is focusing on this particular item quite a bit. Probably should make sure that I understand that. And she always did really well because she knew what was going to be on the test. She quotes a lot of times, just regurgitate back what they asked. It's like, well, yes, but it also is, especially if you're going into university to learn a skill that you're going to apply in your career, don't just learn it for your, passing an exam. You're going to want to learn this for ongoing, knowledge, and, adding on to the knowledge that you already have. And I love how you mentioned, the knowledge gaps. And it's like, okay, if I'm struggling with this, uh, and I do a little bit of therapy work from time to time as well. And what I find is those areas that people struggle with often are areas they go, I don't want to deal with that, or I procrastinate about that, or I don't understand that. And then they get a little apprehensive, maybe even fearful. And what they do is they avoid it instead of going,
Yeah,
okay, I don't understand that, but I need to and I want to. So let's, and once you calm your amygdala down to say, it's okay, we're okay, it's not going to attack you. Once you get past that, then you go, okay, let's lean into this. And I find this all the time on just regular tasks or things that I need to get done. And us humans, we're professionals of procrastination. Some are really pros. And what I find time after time is, if there's something that I'm avoiding doing, when I say enough's enough, I'm going to do it. I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to study, look at whatever I need to do and do it. 10 times out of 10, it doesn't take anywhere near the amount of time that I thought it would, because I was focused and I was doing it, and I wasn't letting any distractions or outside things. It's like, I'm focusing on this because I want to learn this, or I want to accomplish this. And a lot of times it's just, quieting the noise, and just putting yourself in a state of, I'm in a state of learning. And I think that helps a long way in the retention of information as well.
absolutely. And I think what you just perfectly described is indeed the root cause of procrastination, the not leaning into the discomfort. So a lot of people that come to us, like 90% is the biggest challenge is procrastination. We rarely work with people who are already doing great. Some people in our programs, they already score 80, 90%. I'm like, why are you here? They say, I just want to get even better. I'm like, cool. But 90% of people, they come in and they say, Tom, I'm afraid to fail. I therefore feel stressed and anxious. And I procrastinate because I don't know where to start and it feels overwhelming. And I asked them, like, okay, for how long have you been in this situation? Yeah, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And it's like, oh, wow. So, like, you have been in this state for so long, and every time that they put it off, like they procrastinate, it reinforces the belief that they are not capable or they can't do it. Or, like you said, you're a therapist. We use the core beliefs paradigm from cognitive behavioral therapy, like thoughts influence feelings, feelings influence actions, actions lead to results, and result leads to consequences, both positive and negative. But most people are in that negative cycle. So, indeed, we do a lot of mindset work in the first 1 or 2 weeks to make sure that people start to see learning as indeed a process that they can get better at. And I can use any example. You learned how to drive a car by doing theory, doing driving lessons, and eventually driving a lot. You learned a lot about being a therapist by first going into some kind of like degree or a course, learning about psychology, then start helping people, identifying patterns, adjusting, and getting better. And eventually, everyone has learned something really well. But as soon as they start to see something new, it's like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm good enough. And the whole negativity bias kicks in, and we procrastinate because the brain wants to feel safe. So, yeah, we want to get them through that phase, make learning fun. And actually, yesterday I had a really good example. Sanjana, one of my students, she's mid 30s. She's working full time, and she never finished a bachelor's or university degree because she had the belief that she could not learn, and she always failed exams. So she tried 1 year, she failed, and then she said, "I just going to work and leave it with that." We are now working together for around 6 weeks, and last Monday, so yesterday, she came into the call with a smile from ear to ear, and I said, "Why are you smiling?" She said, "This Saturday's study session was so much fun, and I retained so much more, and I actually start to see the progress. I'm thinking about doing my exam earlier than I had scheduled." And I was like, beautiful. She got the whole belief. She got now some proof that she can do it, and she feels good. So now let's hope that she knocks out the exam really well, and then that doubles down on the proof that she is capable. And then she wants to start a bachelor in September. Yeah.
No pressure to your student, but when I hear stories like that, it would not shock me that down the road we see her with a doctorate, that she just went on and said, I want to go do this and just go with it. So there's no limit for you. Go for it. If your students listening to this, go for it. The world needs you to do it. And you mentioned the driving thing, and I had a memory of how I learned to drive. My dad took me. It was wintertime. I got my license in the summer, but in the wintertime, he took me to learn how to drive. And it was in the winter, and we went to Pontiac Northern High School in Pontiac, Michigan, because they had this gigantic parking lot where the students and school teachers and everybody parked. And there were no light poles or anything around it. So huge parking lot. So drove around, did different things. And he said, okay, now I want you to learn how to do a donut and, to spin the car out. And I looked at him like, what? I'm going to teach you how to do donuts. And, here I am, 15 years old, thinking, oh, this is going to be fun. I get to know how to do donuts. So I'm not teaching you how to do it so you can do them. I want to teach you so that when you spin out on the road, you know how to get out of the spin out. And I've used it 3 times in my life and remembered it perfectly. I literally could hear his voice, even though he wasn't in the car, of what to do. And it
Mm.
got me out of the spin. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. And it was, and I'm not saying that I haven't done donuts before, but it's been a long time. It's a lot harder to do it in a front wheel drive car. It's not as fun. You can do it, but it's not as fun. But long story short, there was, it was, putting your mindset in that, okay, I'm going to focus on this and get past those hurdles, and I'm not going to learn how to drive. Or because I hear all the time people say, well, I can't do that. And like, currently you may not be able to, but you can learn how to. That's the gift that we have, is we have this beautiful thing of people being able to learn things. Um,
Neuroplasticity.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So before we go, I want to ask you about AI. And it's an interesting ongoing discussion in a variety of different factors. And I'm one that I do use it, not to replicate or replace me per se, but for a variety of different things. But I have some just personal concern, and we're hearing about it in colleges and universities, and professors upset that students are using AI to write papers and do all the things that they're doing. My personal concern is that using it could potentially amplify people not learning. And that's just a kind of an overarching umbrella comment, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And I know, obviously you've been exposed to it, you see it. You may even use it in part of your curriculum to design things. I don't know, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on, where you see the AI space when it comes to education. Any, potential promises and things that'll make things easier for us, but also pitfalls. Love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, cool question because it's booming, right? It's ongoing topic. In my opinion, AI can be super beneficial for learning and it can speed up the process a lot faster. And I will explain in short what people should do to leverage AI from a learning perspective, but also what most people currently do. Most people currently they ask ChatGPT to summarize a chapter, and what they are going to do, they're going to reread the summary, so they only got rid of the hard work of summarizing something themselves, but they're still using a bad learning method. For example, rereading the summary, right? Like you can use AI for that, but it's not going to help you in terms of learning. You can use AI to indeed let it write essays and dissertations and theses, right? It does take away your opportunity to develop critical thinking skills, analytical skills, evaluation skills, but also creative skills, right? And if you're eventually looking at what in my opinion, successful person needs, is the opportunity to create something. And in order to create something, we have to be able to evaluate, analyze, and apply what works and what doesn't work. So if you are listening and you're using AI for everything, you probably end up being pretty mediocre because you're just a person who uses AI to like do everything for you. However, if you start to think about, okay, how can AI create something for me and help me with getting better? It's a beautiful tool. So how we apply it in our curriculum is that we leverage AI and especially the question-based learning from AI to help people learn more efficiently and effectively. So let's imagine you are a medical student and you need to learn about pharmacology, so drugs and stuff. What you can do is you can upload your book. And instead of asking it for a summary, you say, create 30 practice questions for me. So now you leverage the speed of AI to create a lot of practice problems for you. And it's going to ask you, okay, person has headache, which drug do you advise? Person has sore muscle, what kind of help do you advise? Etc. Then people still have to be able to analyze the patient's condition, evaluate which symptoms they have, and based on that, apply a prescription or the drug or help the patient. So then instead of like reproducing material, they're still actively learning and thinking about, okay, how am I going to use this information in a real life setting? As a business owner, I also use AI, right? I use it to indeed help my students. I use it to something like summarize meetings, but I never really use it to create a new curriculum. I might ask, for example, okay, what are some important points that I should mention? But then I always think back, okay, which students did I have? What were their problems? How did I help them? What did them get the results? What didn't get them the results? Because we don't want to use that. And like I still do that analysis, evaluating, and thinking myself such that I can create something tailored to a specific need of a student. Because we work one-on-one and nobody's situation is the same. So you need to have that thinking skills because AI is not going to do that for you in this moment or like critically analyze that. So in my opinion, really depends how you use it. So if you use it as like, okay, do everything for me, summarize, write, and do that, I think people will stay average. But once you start thinking about, okay, how can it enlighten me or enrich me in terms of my knowledge and developing my critical thinking skills, then I think you will be on the good trajectory.
No, thank you for that. And yeah, I agree. There's a lot of positives about it, but yeah, there's a lot of laziness, I guess, is one way to put it. It's like, you're just, putting something out there, and it's like, why don't you, actually put some of your own personality and understanding. It's great to give you some ideas, especially, writer's block, or, okay, what am I missing here, kind of thing. And it's like, here's, give me some questions of what I might be missing here on this presentation, or this research that I'm doing. What are some alternative ways to look at this? There's so many different ways to go about it.
What you do really
Uh,
well, Michael, is you ask it questions. So you have these
yeah.
questions in your mind, and you
Mhm.
might not be indeed in a position to come up with the answers yourself. So it's like you are still staying curious yourself, and that is the most important also for learning and creation, in my opinion. Sorry
Yeah.
to cut you
No,
off, but
no, that's
yeah.
a very important thing to add on is, stay curious. It's and playful, and be bored from time to time. For somebody that does and sees a lot of people burning out and stressed out, it's like, when was the last time you were bored? And like, they can't remember. I'm like, okay, it's been too long. Okay, we got to figure out how to get bored. Because when you get bored, you're relaxed, and all of a sudden, creativity door just blows right open and gives you countless ideas of things. And you're like, well, I didn't see that. Yeah, it's because you weren't relaxed. It's
Mm.
and if you're relaxed, you can also learn. So it's really important stuff we're doing, and really appreciate your time today. So, where can people find out more about you and all this amazing work you're doing?
Yeah, thank you for giving me that opportunity. So, I would highly recommend if anyone is struggling with memorization or managing their time next to a full-time job and studying MBAs, MSc, masters, or getting a course or certificate on the belt for promotion, and you are feel like you're procrastinating, you don't know how to solve this. I'm more than happy to for you to reach out. Our name is very straightforward, the Study Coach. Once you Google it, our name is on top of all of the search results, probably LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. But if you're really struggling, I do want you to ask a favor. Go into the Instagram account at the Study Coach, and if you really struggle, you can send me the word work, because I want to work with working professionals, and I think your main audience is that. And once you send me that word, we're going to ask you a couple of questions to really get specific on your challenges, and see if we can help out. So if there's someone really serious, this is not for everyone. Send me a DM on Instagram with the word work, such that I know that you're probably working full time and studying on the side. We ask you a couple of questions, probably send you some free resources as well, to see if we can help you out in your specific situation.
I appreciate that, and the audience does too. And I highly encourage those that are working that want to level up. Even if you're decent at it, we can always get better. That's a comment that I had from Richard Tippett, a manager that I had many, many, many years ago. It's alarming how many years ago it was, but again, one of those conversations that I remember and carried it forward all these years later. So, Tom, really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for being on the show.